everyone, welcome back to another lesson with me, Miss G, and today we're going to be looking at the cash receipts journal and the cash payments journal. So when doing the journals, it's very important to understand what is the difference between the two. So the cash receipts journal is when the business receives money. So it might be for doing a service, selling a product, for rent income, and then there will be situations where it would be a CPJ, that's when the business pays for something. So they pay for rent expense, or they pay electricity and water, or they pay for wages or salaries. So a business doesn't just receive money, they also make money. So when you look at the CRJ, I'm going to give you some tips as to how to break it down. So let's just jump into it. Complete the CRJ and CPJ for Janet Crawford for her business, Cupcake Crazy, for September 2022. You're going to need to do a CRJ and a CPJ, and you need to make sure that you have these columns. So now I've got the printout on this side. I've got analysis of receipts, I've got bank, I've got current income, and I've got sundry. I've got bank, I've got equipment, I've got trading stock, and I've got wages, and I've got sundry. If they leave these three columns blank, they will tell you what columns you need to have. So just keep an eye out. These have been filled in for you already. Okay, so what we're going to first do is we're going to identify, is the business receiving money or are they paying money? And just remember, when doing accounting, we're always looking at it from the business's perspective. So not from the owner, we're looking at it from the business's perspective. Okay, so the owner, Janet Crawford, directly deposited 70,000 Rand into the business as her capital contribution. So the owner, here's Janet. I'm such a good artist. Janet put money into the business, so the business is receiving. That is a CRJ. I'm going to put all the CRJs in pink. I'll do all the CPJs in green. The customer paid 1,000 Rand for services rendered. So the customer paid, which means they paid the business. The business is receiving money. Cash received for services rendered. So you received cash, so that's also another CRJ. The business paid 7,200 Rand for wages. Cash was drawn from the ATM. So now this is a CPJ because they have made a payment. Bought the following from Baker Mad via EFT or trading stock, equipment and materials. So that is also a CPJ. On the 12th, just to mention these are all dates down the side, on the 12th, the business paid G. Hobson 4,800 Rand for rent of a property via EFT. So that is also CPJ. Business paid wages of 3,000 Rand via EFT. That's another CPJ. Business paid the following to Bake For You via EFT. They bought a computer, consumables and stationery. Another CPJ. They're spending lots of money. The business received 5,000 Rand for services rendered via cash. That's a CRJ. They received money. M. Pretorius paid the business 700 Rand for services rendered using cash. So this customer, M. Pretorius, paid the business, which means the business received money. Okay, so once you've identified, has the business received it or have they paid the money, then we are able to enter everything into our CRJ and CPJ. So I'm going to do all the CRJs first, and then I'm going to do all the CPJs. Just fold this in half so it's easier to work with. All right. So you'll see there's a few columns here, and so I'm going to explain what each of them does. The document on this far left-hand side is the source document. So if you go to like Spar or Pick n Pay and you buy something, when you pay for cash in cash or card, what they give you is a till slip. In other words, proof that that payment has happened. So if you ever decide to return something, you have proof that you bought it at that shop. So with regards to a cash receipts journal, it could either be a CRR, and that's when someone pays in cash. It stands for a cash register roll. It's a fancy name essentially for a till slip. It could also be a receipt. So it'll either specify if it's a receipt or if they're receiving money for something that's not related to the business. So like this lady runs Cupcake Crazy. So if they were paying in cash for cupcakes or ingredients and things like that, that would be a CRR. But if someone's paying cash for, let's say, rent, it's not related to a cupcake business, then we would use a receipt. It's like a receipt book when you go to the bursars to pay the bursars for something. They'll write it out in a book and they'll give you a piece of paper to say that you've paid. That's a receipt. And lastly, a BS is a bank statement, which is usually done if you make an EFT payment. So if you go onto your cell phone and you make a purchase or you pay someone, it's going to be a BS. The day is the date. Details is who did you receive money from? That would be the first price. If you don't know that question, then what was it for? Why did you receive the money? Analysis of receipts is like the till. So the only time it does not go in here is if it's a bank statement, because a bank statement won't go into the till. It's not cash related. It would go literally through the internet into the other person's bank account. Bank is pretty much bank. If there are two or more transactions, I should say, I suppose cash or receipt transactions on a day, you add them up together, and I'll show you that soon. Current income is for service, and sundry is for other reasons why you might have received money. So either you're going to receive money for doing a service, or you're going to receive money for something else. This is the something else column. Okay, so let's look at our CRJ. And there's some key things in here. The owner, Janet Crawford, that's the first thing, directly is important, deposited 70,000 Rand into the business as her capital contribution. So now it doesn't tell me what source document it is. But if it says the word directly, it's telling me it's an EFT, which means it's a bank statement. So my document is going to be a BS. The day is the first. Who paid the business? Who did the business receive money from? Janet Crawford. She's the owner. Now, because this is a bank statement, we don't put it in this column. Okay, so you leave this out and it goes straight into bank. Bank statement goes straight into your bank account. Doesn't matter if there's another transaction on that day or anything. You have to put it straight into your bank. 70,000. Was it for a service or was it for something else? It was for something else, and that something else is capital. Okay, so that's the first one. Next one. On the 6th, customer paid 1,000 Rand for services rendered, CRR 24. So that's telling me it's a cash register roll 24. So I can write here CRR 24. Date is the 6th. What did I make money for? For services rendered. So customer paid 1,000 Rand for services rendered, CRR. Those are the keywords. So services rendered. Can I put it into the till? Yes, because it's a CRR, it's not a BS. And that was 1,000 Rand. Can I put it into bank? Not yet, because there's another transaction on that day that we'll bank together. Because if you think about it, if the business had to run to the bank every single time they received money, they'd be running backwards and forwards. So if you imagine like a busy shop like Spar, if every single time someone paid cash, they ran off to Standard Bank to go put the money into the bank, they'd be running up and down like crazy. So what they do is they wait until the end of the day, they then close the till and they bank it all together. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that now. That 1,000 Rand, was it for services or for something else? It was for services. So I can put it in the current income column. That's all. Next one, cash received for services rendered, 2,400. Now it doesn't tell me the document, but it does tell me that it's cash. And it's related to the business. It's for services. So it's also going to be a CRR number 25 now. Now we use the next number. Also for the 6, you can write the number, but you don't have to. We don't know who paid. We know it was a customer, but we don't have a specific name. We want a name of the person. We don't have a name, so what was it for? It was for services rendered. And that 2,400 can go into the till because it's cash. 2,400 for services. Is there any other cash transaction or receipt transaction on that day? No, there isn't. So we draw a dark line underneath here, like that, to say we are closing the till off, and therefore we can bank it together. Try and zoom in a little bit more here. There we go. So 1,000 plus 2,400 banked together gives me 3,400. But I still need to put in this 2,400 either into services or into sundry. It was for services, so the 2,400 goes over there. Okay, so be very careful. If there are two cash transactions or two receipt transactions on a day, I put them into the till and then I add them up together. Right, it could be 3 or 4 or 5. But if this was a bank statement, let's say for example, if this was a BS, it would have gone straight into bank, and this CRR would have gone into the till and then just as 2,400 Rand into bank. So you'll be very careful. It has to be two CRRs or two receipts, or one CRR and one receipt, doesn't matter, but they get banked together. If I look further down, business received 5,000 Rand for services rendered via cash. Okay, so actually let me change this. Let me change this to EFT to show you what I mean with regards to, because you would hopefully know how to do this. Two CRRs in a day, we bank up together. So you receive for services rendered via EFT. EFT 5,000 services rendered. So if it's an EFT, it's going to be a BS. It's for the 25th for services rendered. Now, because it's a bank statement, it does not go into this column. Don't do it, otherwise you get a -1 mark. Don't put it in here. It goes straight into your bank account of 5,000. And then what did you receive money for? Current income or sundry? For current income for services. Then M Pretorius paid the business 700 Rand for services rendered using cash. So if it's cash, remember, and it's related to the business, it's the services they offer, it's going to be CRR, and the next number is 26. So we don't have to give you all the numbers, we can give you the first one, and then you must just work from there. The date is the 25th, you don't have to rewrite it. Who paid you? Now I know the person's name, so I can write their name in. CRR, so I put it in the till, absolutely, cash goes into the till of 700. This amount has already been put into your bank. Remember, it went straight in through bank statements. So through the internet, if you EFT, it goes straight into the person's bank. So this 700 is going to go in like that, and it's going to be for services, so it goes in. So if you look at the difference very, very carefully, these were both cash. They both went into the till. So if there is more than one amount in the till on the same day, we bank it together. These two, however, although on the same day, this was a bank statement, so it went straight into your bank account, if it's EFT, and a CRR, they would bank at the end of the day. What do they have in the till? All they had was 700 Rand in the till if I look at these two. So I'm going to bank the 700. At the end, what you'll have to do is then add everything up. Let me just grab my calculator. And so my sundry, pretty straightforward, is 70,000. My current income is 9,100. And my bank is 79,100. You never, ever add up analysis of receipts. Don't do it. We'd also minus the mark. And you have a dark line at the top and at the bottom to tell us that these are your totals. Right. To check your answer, you would add everything in the sundry plus your current income, and it should equal to bank. So if I take that 70,000 plus 9,100, does it equal to my bank? Yes, it does. So then I know that I've done the correct thing, because all the money I'm receiving has to go into my bank account. So I've received money for services and I've received money for other stuff. In this case, there was only one thing, which was capital. So that's the CRJ. When we look at the CPJ though, this one is actually even a little bit easier. Okay, so the document over here, 90% of the time, is going to be a bank statement. Unless it says it's a receipt, which is very seldom, but most of the time it's going to be a bank statement. The day is the day that the payment was made. And details is, again, who did you pay? And most of the time we're going to give you the name of that person. It's very, very seldom that you would actually say what for. The only time that would happen is on the 7th, which I'll show you. Bank, it always goes into bank. So this one's nice. It doesn't matter if there is 1 or 2 or 3 or 50 transactions on that day. It'll always go straight into your bank account. And then you're going to put it into the column that it belongs. Either equipment or trading stock or wages or other. So other stuff that you might have received money for. Or might have paid, sorry, you might have paid for. So you might have paid for rent expense, water and electricity, rates and taxes. So anything like that. But CPJ is easier, and let me show you. Business paid 7,200 Rand for wages. Cash was drawn from the ATM. So if you draw money from the ATM for wages, and although it says cash, just be careful, it is going to be a BS, because you look on your bank statement that you've drawn money from the ATM. The date is the 7th. Now, who did you pay? Because there isn't a name, but you pay your wages to who? You pay them to your employees. So that's the only time that it might not necessarily be a person's name, but here we're paying our employees, our workers. That 7,200 Rand always goes into bank. And then into what other column? Equipment, trading stock, wages, or sundry. It's for wages. And so it's going to go into the wages column. You bought the following from Baker Mad via EFT. So its EFT is going to be a bank statement. It's the 8th. The name of the place is Baker Mad. And we're not going to put bank amount in yet, but we're going to put each of these in. So trading stock was 14,000. Equipment was 5,000. And materials, which doesn't have its own column, so it's going to have to go into sundry, was 800. We call it materials. So how much essentially did they pay Baker Mad in total? The way that you're going to figure that out is adding all three of these together. So 14,000 plus 5,000 plus 800 is going to give you 19,800, but I always like to check. And so they paid Baker Mad 19,800. It's split up like this so that they can see exactly how much did they spend on equipment, 5,000. How much on trading stock, how much on materials. Because we don't want to just put down 19,800, let's say, for example, under equipment, and then they're like, yo, why did we spend so much money on equipment when they actually didn't? So you split it up like that. Next, the business paid G. Hobson 4,800 Rand for rent of a property via EFT. So that's BS for the 12th. Who did we pay? G. Hobson. How much? 4,800 goes into bank, always. And then what was it for? It was for rent expense. They paid for rent, so it's rent expense. You're never going to have rent income in the CPJ. So that 4,800 goes there for rent expense. On the 14th, you paid wages. Let me just highlight these here so you can see. On the 14th, you paid for wages of 3,000 via EFT. So it's an EFT, it's going to be bank statement, the 14th. Who did you pay if it's wages? You paid your employees. How much did you pay them? 3,000 Rand. And what was it for? Equipment, trading stock, wages, or other? It was for wages. I love CPJ, it's lekker. Okay, the business paid the following to bake for you via EFT. You bought a computer, consumables, and stationery. EFT, bake for you. The only thing that's important to know is if it's computer, that is considered, the only time that it might be a tricky one, that's considered equipment. All other times, it'll say it's equipment or trading stock or wages or it's for rent, expense, whatever it might be. But just be careful. If they ever ask about computer, it's called equipment. So bake for you by EFT. It's a BS 22nd bake for you. And again, because there are three amounts, I'm going to wait to see what the total was. You're welcome to add them up now and then put it in, but I just like to enter them in first. So computer, which is an equipment, is 8,900 in the equipment column. Consumables does not go into trading stock or wages, so that's going to have to go into sundry. Consumables are like handy Andy dishwashing liquid, tea, coffee, milk, things that you use up in a business. You can't sell it again later. Consumables. And then stationery doesn't have its own column. So now the question is, where do you write it? You just write it below. It belongs in the sundry section. So you just write it below like that as your stationery. If there was another CPJ, just be careful that you don't write anything in this line over here. So nothing must go into this line. You would then need to start over here. Let's say they paid for water and electricity. Then you would have to write over here, they paid Nelson Mandela Bay, they paid 1,000 Rand, and it would 1,000 Rand for water and electricity. Just be careful, because once you get to the end, you'll notice that stationery is in the way. Now that we're finished with that, the last thing to do is to add up all the columns. So bank, equipment, trading stock, wages, and sundry get added up. Dark line at the top, dark line at the bottom. So it's 800, 4,800, 700, and 100. So that's 6,400. The next one is 7,200 and 3,000. So that's 10,200. Trading stock is only one amount, so the total is easy enough. Equipment is 5,000 plus 8,900. And that's 13,900. And then bank, going to add all of those up. And look what I forgot. The 8,900 and the 700 and the 100 I've forgotten to add up and put into bank. Okay, 9,700. So what would have happened if I had added those up? When I checked my answer, I would notice that there would have been a mistake. Okay, so let's do that again. And the amount is 44500. So 44,500 Rand they paid. So let's have a look. If I add up everything that they paid for, does it equal up to my bank account? It should. Otherwise, I've made a mistake. So if I'd left that out, then this amount would be lower and then it wouldn't equal. So let's see if it equals now. And the last one is 640. So the amounts do equal, because I've paid for equipment, trading stock, wages, and other stuff. All together, the total I paid would have affected your bank. And so you'll see it says here at the end your cash receipts journal of and your cash payments journal of. They want you to just do the headings, don't forget those. So cash receipts journal of Cupcake Crazy for September 2022. That's the CRJ. The CPJ of again Cupcake Crazy for September 2022. Okay, so that's how you do the CRJ. Let's just run through it again. You get your transactions and you identify which ones are a CRJ and which ones are a CPJ. So take some highlighters to your exam or even right next to it if it's a CRJ or a CPJ. Remember, if the business is receiving money, it goes into the CRJ. If the business is paying money, it goes into the CPJ. You then enter everything into your CRJ, remembering that BS doesn't go into the till. And if it's more than one cash transaction on a day, so if it's CRRs or receipts on the same day, we bank them together. And sundry is for other stuff. Current income is for services. You're receiving money for something else or otherwise for service. CPJ, it's going to always go into bank and then it'll go into the other column depending on what it was that you purchased. And if you purchased multiple things from a business or different things, you'd put them into the columns, and then you would add it up and put it into bank. Okay, and then at the end, always check your answer. Have a look. Do all of these accounts, your equipment, trading stock, wages, and sundry, do they equal up to bank? And over here, does your current income and your sundry, does that equal up to bank? You never ever add up your analysis of receipts. But as you're doing your exam, you're welcome to jot stuff at the top over here in your headings. We really don't mind as long as you get the answers right so that it helps you. And read through the question carefully. And as I've suggested before, make sure that you just imagine yourself as Janet Crawford who owns Cupcake Crazy. Read the questions carefully and then think, am I, as the owner Janet Crawford, receiving money? Then it's a CRJ. Or am I paying for something? Then it's a CPJ. And I hope this helped. Make sure that you obviously any of the activities that you have in your textbook that you get from your school, that you work through them, and then just try and identify any mistakes if you have a look at the memos. But yeah, good luck, and I hope this helped.